come on in. Welcome into the latest edition of First Take. Skip Bayless, Molly Karam holding things down in Bristol. Stephen A. is in the Bay Area. You all know why. Gentlemen, good day.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good. You guys look nice. I like these looks.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
I just envy Mr. Smith getting to camp in maybe my favorite city in the world, where you are right now. Way to go.
Yeah, it's your favorite city in the world, not mine. If I had to pick a spot to be in California, trust me, it would be southern. It wouldn't be northern.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yes.
All of California.
You know, I must admit, I do love Southern California.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Really? Oh, okay. Very interesting, Stephen A. Let's work.
Well, you know I do. You know I do.
Okay, let's get into it, guys. And we start with the King. LeBron asked yesterday about being the underdog against the Warriors. Here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
Not my concern. I don't get involved in all that underdog, overdog, whatever the case may be. It's stupidity. One thing for me is just how well I can get my team prepared mentally and physically to go out for battle, because it's going to be a tough test for us, and we know that. We're better built to start the finals than we were last year. It doesn't matter who it's against. I mean, that's not a headline. That's obvious.
All right, Skip, break it down for us. What's LeBron really trying to say here?
Stephen A. Smith, here's my 2 cents. My view from a distance of what I just heard from LeBron James and continue to hear from him. He is saying something I've never heard from LeBron James going into an NBA Finals. This obviously his 6th straight of those. To me, LeBron James is very publicly expressing supreme confidence in himself and his team, the team that's better built to face these Golden State Warriors. And he's doing so at the risk, maybe the extreme risk, of offending and motivating said Golden State Warriors, which just my 2 cents, I don't think that's very smart. You may disagree, but let me elaborate. LeBron James is now saying it is stupidity for the odds makers to favor a team that, as we all know, won a record 73 games, a team that we just witnessed come from 3-1 down to win the much more difficult Western Conference against, as we all know, an extremely dangerous and very talented Oklahoma City Thunder team. And we're talking about a team that clearly has the back-to-back MVP, the first ever unanimous MVP, and finally, a team that does have, for what it's worth, home court advantage in the NBA Finals. All those things, he's saying it's stupid to favor that team. I'm not sure it's stupidity, but again, the old LeBron would have said something like, you know, I can see why they would be favored, but I still like our chances. That would be the old LeBron. But the new LeBron is in full-on attack mode at Golden State. And he's basically saying that, as we all know, he said that Steph's unanimous MVP award was, by his definition, he was saying that he gets it. He conceded that Steph was the best player this year, statistically, but that maybe Steph wasn't most valuable to his team. And as you recall, a couple of weeks ago, I interpreted that that LeBron was saying, hey, I'm sorry, I think I was more valuable to my team than Steph Curry was. Then he went in full-on attack mode on Steve Kerr by saying that Terry Stotts flat out deserved Coach of the Year over Steve Kerr. Wow. So that's 2 for 2. You went after Steph and the award, and you went after Steve Kerr and his Coach of the Year award. And again, big picture for me, Stephen A., King James is not ready to buy into the crowning of Steph Curry as the best player on the planet, nor is he willing to pay even an ounce of respect to what Golden State has earned so far, which is obviously 1 championship against a LeBron team without Kevin Love, as we know, and without Kyrie after Game 1 of the NBA Finals. So, to me, this is a new guy. I'm intrigued by this guy. I love it for our sake that it's great build-up, pre-finals hype for us. But again, this Golden State team is not to be trifled with, especially Steph Curry. And I think LeBron, in this case, is biting off more than he should be able to chew.
I think you're being utterly ridiculous on this matter, to be quite honest with you. Let me start out saying that. And the reason I feel that way is because you're acting as if somehow, some way, the Golden State Warriors are going to have mercy upon LeBron James. If somehow, some way he speaks glowingly about them, respectfully about them, that he doesn't do anything to agitate them or whatever the case may be. These are the NBA Finals. There is a championship on the line. And if there is a team that is merciless when it comes to the opposition, it is the Golden State Warriors. When they get going, they get going. And when they hit you with haymakers via three-pointers, of course. This is just what they do. And so they're not going to have any mercy upon LeBron James because he speaks eloquently and he says the right things and he goes about doing things the right way and all of this other stuff. Not to mention the fact, four-time league MVP, two-time NBA champion, somebody that basically by himself with little to no help to speak of, still averaged 35, 13, and I think 7 in the finals last year and managed to win 2 games against this team. And so it's one of those situations where not only did you have to live with the specter of not having a Kevin Love, not having a Kyrie Irving, being undermanned against this juggernaut from last year, but they come into this season, not only do they blow you out on your home court, but in the midst of their terrific season at 73-9, an all-time record, all we've been hearing about all year long are the Golden State Warriors, how lethal they are and what they do to one opposition after another. If you're LeBron James and you've got any kind of metal inside of you, you're going to get tired of hearing that. So you talk about trifling with somebody or messing with somebody or whatever the case may be. I'm sorry, when you're the opposition, you're supposed to be willing to do anything. If you're as great as LeBron James has been, you're certainly supposed to display something that says you ain't backing down to a damn soul. They're coming, well, here you come too. Let's get it on. That's what it's all about. I know you said you like that, and I respect that part, but at the same time, it's like this notion that we've got to worry about what we say about people or whatever the case may be. I think that's applicable to coaches when it comes to talking about opposing players because, again, you don't have to go on the court and play against them. So if you're, for example, like Jeff Van Gundy back in his days when he was coaching the Knicks, to mess with Michael Jordan, well, then that's a little bit different because you're not on the court to do anything about it. But if you are a player, particularly a superstar elite player, the likes of LeBron James, and you want to talk, well, you talk away. You talk all you want to talk. Because you're the one that's going to be on the court in a position to back it up, as opposed to hoping that somebody else does it for you. So I really don't have any problem with it. It doesn't bother me at all. I like it. It makes me elevate my level of confidence in LeBron James. Maybe not to the point where I'm going to pick them. I haven't decided that yet. We'll find out tomorrow. But nevertheless, it's one of those situations where I want to see this from champions. And I want to see this from championship contenders. I say it all the time, quoting my man, the nature boy, Ric Flair. To be the man, you've got to beat the man. Golden State, they're the men right now. Cleveland is coming. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I welcome it. That kind of banter and chatter, whatever the case. And in terms of talking, saying this stupidity, in terms of prognosticators, well, he's supposed to feel that way. But obviously, it's a very, very big deal because prognosticating is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is gambling, okay? And so then you have, whether it's literally gambling, it's fantasy football and basketball, it's a host of other different things. The bottom line is it's a moneymaker. He needs to get over that, but I don't blame him for feeling the way that he feels, just like I don't blame any other player for feeling the way that they feel because we're not the ones that have to go out there and perform. They are. And if you're predicting somebody's going to lose, and somebody's not the favorite, and somebody can't win, and I'm the guy that's got to go out there and perform, and you're predicting that I'm going to lose, I got a problem with you, too. I'd call you an idiot myself, meaning any of us, not you, but any of us.
Okay. I think you're misapplying the Ric Flair line here. To be the man, you have to beat the man. LeBron is saying they ain't the man. I'm still the man. We are still the man. He's saying...
Well, I think he's saying him instead of we.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give you that. Okay, but my point to you is, my question to you, do you think Golden State deserves to be favored, even by a little here? Yes. Yes. I mean, anybody in their right basketball mind would say, yeah, Golden State deserves to be favored by whatever. what are they, a 5.5-point favorite tomorrow night in Game 1, whatever it is for the series. Okay, you could say they're almost a prohibitive favorite in the eyes of many, including BPI, but whatever. They are favored, and they deserve to be, except LeBron James, the leader of the underdog team, is saying that's stupidity to favor them, and he's been relentless in paying them no respect for what they've achieved individually as an MVP and a Coach of the Year, or collectively as a team. He's paying them no respect. Again, I haven't seen this LeBron before. Maybe you have, but I don't remember him certainly, against my Spurs going into those things. He would just wax eloquent about his respect for the Spurs.
Stop. Here's the difference. You can't use that as an analogy, and here is why. Because even though the Spurs were an elite team, they're quiet, and they quietly go about the business of just doing them. And they display profound respect for the competition. They're never dismissive of anyone. But more importantly than that, and you are the absolute most qualified person in all of media to validate the point I'm about to make. No matter how great the Spurs are, they are underappreciated until you have no choice but to appreciate them. The Spurs the Spurs are an afterthought until they're literally in your face and you have to deal with them. No one on the planet, not even the Spurs, complain about that reality more than Skip Bayless. So if you are LeBron or anybody else, that's entirely different. Of course you show them the respect because you too recognize that they're not rewarded and celebrated nearly as much as they should be. In the case of Golden State, even though they're the champions, you got to understand why somebody like LeBron will look at them and say, well, wait a minute. They deserve props, but my God, look at how y'all just gloss all over them.
What he's saying.
I mean,
I agree.
It's ridiculous because think about it. What you said yesterday, you pulled out a tweet in the immediate aftermath of Golden State winning the finals, and you pointed out your tweet about how they were the most opportunistic and, all of this other stuff because of the things. Fortuitous. Fortuitous is the word you use. You talked about Mike Conley Jr. being hurt. You talked about Kyrie Irving being hurt in the finals along with Kevin Love. You talked about, all of this stuff. I'm saying to you, well, that's what LeBron remembers too. LeBron remembers how fortuitous their run was last year, especially against himself. So the fact that they've been celebrated to the degree that they have been celebrated, having not won the title yet, he has every right to feel that way. He just has to do something about it now that he's in this position. But I don't blame him for his stance.
Okay, I got it. Now let me flip it around quickly and look at this from the Warriors' perspective, especially Steph Curry's perspective. I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but he has a little Michael in him. He takes these things very personally, these slights. That's why I read the tweet in his response to me a year ago. And I'm going to say it again. You vehemently disagreed with me. I thought a psychological turning point in the previous series, the Western Conference Finals, was when Russell Westbrook stifled laughter at a question about Steph's defense. I just think that's the kind of thing that will infuriate and motivate Steph Curry off the charts. He's going to get even with you for that kind of a public slight. And I believe he's taking these shots from LeBron pretty personally. I'm not sure that's smart going into the finals. Maybe, again, if you can back it up, you can back it up. Now it's time to go play. And maybe LeBron thinks he can back it up, and maybe he thinks his co-stars are prepared, that they've grown enough and they're healthy enough to back it up. They've shown that they are clicking at the highest level you can click at in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now let's see what happens against the champs from the West. Now it starts. LeBron's season starts right now, to me.
The season starts right there with you. That's fair enough, Skip. I don't have a problem with that, man, because we know we knew all along he was going to cakewalk through the Eastern Conference Finals. You damn right the season starts with him, and he better show up and produce. Fair enough. But let's stop with the nonsense about Steph Curry. First of all, when Westbrook was laughing, even though the question wasn't directed at him, it was about Steph Curry's defense, not his offense. We all know that Steph Curry is a lethal lethal marksman, a sniper, the reigning two-time league MVP, and unquestionably the best offensive player in the game right now. I ask a question. Did the Oklahoma City Thunder talk smack about Steph Curry when Steph Curry dropped 46 on them in the regular season? Did the New Orleans Pelicans talk smack about Steph Curry when Steph Curry dropped 51 on them? Did the Clippers talk smack about him when he dropped 40 on them? There's been plenty. What about the Washington Wizards? Did he drop, I think it was 51 on them?
Yep.
Did they talk smack about him when he had spent the day early at the White House, okay, chilling with President Obama? No. Steph Curry doesn't need to be antagonized. He's merciless anyway. You could be the nicest guy. You can sing, you can hug him and sing Kumbaya to him. You can give him a massage, a pedicure, a manicure. You can do whatever the hell you want with Steph Curry. It ain't going to stop him from raining threes on you. He going to do it all day long, every chance he gets. So it doesn't make a difference. It's not about what Russell Westbrook laughed at. It's not about what LeBron James is saying. It's not about what Steph Curry's going to do Steph Curry. Watch his daddy when his daddy was playing. One of the nicest guys in the world. By the way, all the opponents loved and respected him. It didn't stop him from raining threes on them. Michael Jordan manufactured 90% of the controversies that he was involved in because he was looking for an excuse to motivate himself. So he literally lied about the controversies that made headlines to inspire him or whatever, to keep himself motivated because the competition itself wasn't motivating enough because he knew what he could do to him. I mean, this is what it was.
All right,
so
last
it's like,
question.
Stop with the nonsense.
Okay, last question. If you were Steph Curry right now, would you even be slightly offended by how LeBron is dismissing you as the favorite? Did it stupid to call you the favorite?
Not at all, because I wouldn't take it as LeBron dismissing me. I would take it as LeBron recognizing that LeBron believes in LeBron, and he's coming. I would anticipate that he's going to come and that I better be ready to do something about it. I don't think Steph Curry's thinking about it at all. I don't think it's something that he's taking personal at all, because I don't recall LeBron James taking a personal swipe at him yesterday or whenever it was. I don't see that.
I do.
But it doesn't matter.
I do. We'll see.
But it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's the finals. Steph Curry is coming to annihilate him. And LeBron had better be ready to answer and do something about it, or he's going to get smoked. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to get smoked. Because it doesn't matter what they don't. It doesn't matter what they say or what they don't say. Golden State will have no mercy. They will bury you if you let them. You better be prepared to do something about it.
Okay, I got it. But it sounds to me like LeBron thinks he's coming to annihilate Steph. That's how it's coming across.
What's he supposed to think?
Okay, good. Here we go. Bring it on.
How is that a problem? How is that a problem?
I just don't think it's smart. These guys, they only won 73 games.
Please.
That's all.
Why am I even talking to you about this? You're the same guy. You're the same guy that would have somebody kidnapped if it could lead to a Spurs victory. I mean, why am I even talking to you about this stuff?
Yeah,
why even waste my time?
That's not true. My guys always get hurt before the biggest games.
Oh, please. You'll sit up there. If you could sit there and untie somebody's shoelaces and have them twist their ankles so the Spurs could win, you do it. If somebody could mess with their food and make them sick before a game against the Spurs, you would do it. I mean, why am I talking to you about this?
I'm still convinced that you got to the referees before Game 5 of the Spurs-Thunder series, because those two calls cost me a championship in the last minute of that game. Those two non-calls.
No, you know what cost you a championship? Age and LaMarcus Aldridge. That's what cost you a championship. Age and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Next question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Steph on LeBron saying he's been to the final 6 times. I won't be thinking about that on the court, but afterwards you can appreciate the star power and the level of basketball.
Come out of him losing. There's no doubt about that. If he loses these NBA finals, it would be a 3rd consecutive NBA finals loss on his resume. That's devastating. It would be a 5th NBA Finals loss overall. That would be devastating. But what would be even worse is if Steph Curry performs and he doesn't. See, that's what can't happen. If we sit up there and we see LeBron perform similar to what he did last year with some dominating performances, with the exception of, I think it was Game 4.
Yep.
Okay? If we see dominating performances, but Kevin Love doesn't step up, and Kyrie Irving doesn't step up, and J.R. Smith's entire game evaporates because he's not hitting jump shots, then it's a little bit different. It's still negative. It's still bad. But nothing is worse than if Steph Curry continues to be the Steph Curry that we see, particularly in fourth quarters, and LeBron James is nowhere to be found. Nothing is worse than that. But if LeBron James shows up and performs, and we're able to point to Love getting outmatched by a Draymond Green and Andrew Bogut and Maurice Spates and Draymond Green are rebounding a basketball, and Tristan Thompson and Love are nowhere to be found, or J.R. Smith shoots 31% from the field and 29% from three-point range again, all right, and Kyrie Irving suddenly can't score, then that's different. It's still negative, but it's really the worst possible scenario is that Kevin Love comes to play, Kyrie Irving comes to play, and LeBron shows up for 3 quarters, but then Steph pours it on in the fourth, and LeBron has no answer. That is the worst case scenario, because not only do you lose the finals, but we can no longer call him King James. You can't be king without a crown. You can't, and you especially can't be the king without a crown if somebody is literally in your face and taking it from you. It'd be one thing if Steph Curry is sitting at home because his team lost, but Steph Curry is on the floor with you. He's the reigning 2-time league MVP. You are the one, if you're LeBron, who articulated, eloquently so I might add, the difference between the best player in the world and the most valuable player. You brought that analogy to our attention. You essentially implied that you still believe you're the best in the world, and that just because you didn't win league MVP doesn't mean you're not the best in the world. Then you're going up against that guy in the finals for all the marbles, and he shows up at money time, and there's an APB out for you. That cannot happen. So LeBron has to show up. They need to win. If they don't win, it's going to be bad, but it would be exponentially worse if Steph Curry shows up in the fourth quarter like he has been doing, and we can't find LeBron. That cannot happen.
Okay, do I hear you saying that it's possible that LeBron could play great in every, let's say it goes 7 and they lose to Golden State at Golden State in Game 7, but LeBron plays big every game, that he does match Steph shot for shot, fourth quarter, clutch time shot for shot, but he loses closely, and we step back and say, you know, that stage was too big for Kevin Love, or maybe even for Kyrie, I don't know, whatever. Or role players, Cleveland's couldn't stand up to Golden State's role players, whatever. That can happen. Are you saying you'd be okay with that for LeBron? That would not hurt his legacy to fall to 2 and 5?
I'm saying his legacy is going to be hurt no matter what. But nothing's worse than if you don't perform.
Okay.
There is layers to which it can really be bad for you. It would be bad no matter what with a loss, but it would be devastating if he doesn't perform and Steph Curry does along the way to a loss.
Okay, now let's look at the glass as half full for LeBron. What would you say if they win this as the underdog? Well, what if they, in 6 games, they close out Golden State in Cleveland? Then what would you say about LeBron's legacy at 3 and 4? Would you say it's that much better?
It would be significantly better if he performed.
Yeah.
You can't. Listen, Skip, this is basketball. It's not like football or whatever. The quarterback position is obviously different. But there are so many things that come to football that you can look. A running back that doesn't run for 150 yards in a particular game. A receiver that doesn't catch for 150 to 200 yards in a particular game, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things, or a lot, a pass rusher that doesn't get but so many sacks. There's a lot of things that enter the equation. But in the sport of basketball, albeit a team sport, individual exceptionalism gets noticed, and individual unexceptionalism gets noticed as well. So if Cleveland wins, all right, it's fine. But if LeBron plays like garbage, which is not going to happen, by the way, and Kyrie and Kevin Love comes and play and saves the day, we're going to notice that too.
Okay, I got it.
We're going to notice that. He's not going to be hurt by a win, but again, he can't play bad and they lose while Steph Curry's playing well. That is the most devastating scenario for him.
Okay. Here's my take on the positive side of this. If LeBron wins and he's the MVP of the finals, to me, and you can say I'm being unfair to say this or hypercritical of LeBron James, I think I'm just being honest. This is my gut feeling. I don't believe that LeBron at this stage of his career, after 13 NBA seasons at age 31, can save his legacy. It's already by Jordan standards. And again, you say it's unfair, but I think from the start, LeBron wanted to be compared to Michael Jordan. That was his goal, was to be better than Michael Jordan. That's when I'm talking about when he came out of high school as the chosen one and chose to wear number 23. My point is, he did have the meltdown 2010 versus Dallas in the finals when they're up 2-1 with home court advantage. And, you know, they flamed out, obviously, and lost 3 straight games and were out of that series. And to me, again, now I'm looking at it from a Spurs fan's perspective, but I'll never get over Game 6. LeBron melted down at the end of Game 6 of that, 2013 finals in Miami. He had 3 turnovers in the last 3 minutes and 18 seconds of that game, and then he missed what I thought was going to be the last shot of the game to tie, the 3 to tie. And I thought my guys would get the rebound and go the other way and the game would be over. But no, it went, bounded high and long to Bosh, who kicked it to Ray Allen, and I'll never get over that. But my point is, can LeBron undo that legacy, the negative part of his legacy, by beating Golden State? I mean, for me, no. It's indelible. It's already there. I mean, it's clear he can't be 6 for 6 Michael Jordan at this stage of his career. He could help improve his legacy, but he can't redeem it.
Let me tell you what problem I have with your analogy there. People are allowed to grow and evolve. You can bring up a host of points that you've made about LeBron over the years, Skip. They're not wrong. But what somebody would look at you and say, damn, why don't you calm down? Think about what you were 10 years ago. Think about what you were 20 years ago. Didn't you evolve? Didn't you grow? Don't we all evolve? Don't we all grow? If LeBron James is making the mistakes now that he made back before he won a championship, then that's a good, legitimate argument. But if he's matured, if his game has evolved, if he's grown, if he's validated his greatness as a champion, as a league MVP, why would you disrespect that? Why would you hold on for dear life to something that happened years ago? I understand not forgetting it because we still haven't forgotten how Magic Johnson struggled in the finals when Dennis Johnson and those boys forced 3 consecutive turnovers that cost them a championship, I think, in 1985.
Yep.
But we also recognize the fact that he came right back,
he did.
Made amends for that. He came right back and won 2 more titles after that. So we got to look at it from that perspective and respect the fact that there's a level of greatness that this man brought to the equation after adversity hit. And how are you going to ignore that when it comes to LeBron? But you ignore it when it comes to everybody else. You might recognize and remember what they did, but you bypass that because this is what they did in the aftermath of that. Nobody got on LeBron harder than me when he folded against the Dallas Mavericks, still chasing that elusive title. But damn, he came back the next year and balled out against Oklahoma City. Then he came back the next year, and even though Ray Allen saved the day in Game 6, what did he do in Game 7? 37 and 15.
Yep,
what did he do en route to winning his first title?
Yep.
48 and 15. 45, 15. This brother's on another level. Let's respect the level of greatness that this man brings to the equation and respect the fact that he answered adversity by showing up and overcoming it, which is an inspiration to everybody and everything that they do.
Okay, that's
you don't
fine.
sit there and lay down just because you failed. You get your behind back up and do what you got to do.
Okay, but don't tell me that LeBron could redeem himself to the point that he could be considered greater than Michael Jordan. That's over.
Well, who said
That's
that?
out.
Nobody said that.
I think there are a lot of
who is saying
blind,
this?
There are a lot of blind LeBron fans out there still holding on to that.
Hold on. You keep bringing it up that people are saying this. Skip, I've heard no one say this. No one. Only you. You're the only one that sit there and bring up and you say, people say this, that I don't want to hear this. Who are you hearing it from? I have heard no one. No one. I've covered the NBA for 20 years. I have heard no one say that LeBron James is greater than Michael Jordan. No one. Where is it coming from?
That he still would have a chance to redeem himself to the point where you'd step back and say, you know what? He proved over time he had a greater career than Michael. I'm sorry, you can't erase what happened earlier in his career.
When anybody talks in that regard, they're talking about the number of NBA Finals appearances one makes. Under no circumstances has any human being that I know discussing basketball. I host a national radio show, Skip. I'm on national television with you. I'm doing Sports Center. I'm at the NBA games. I walk the streets. Skip Bayless, I have heard no human being sit there and say that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Only you keep saying that people have said that. It is not true.
I don't want to call out any other commentators on this network, but I think I heard that last week when he got to his 6th straight finals, that qualified him as doing something that Michael didn't ever do. That no one had, you know, well,
doing something. No. Doing something that Michael has never done is entirely different than saying somebody's better than Michael Jordan was. No one has said that. I challenge you to find me one person, one in the globe who has said that about LeBron.
I will bet
one person.
If LeBron manages to win this finals, I bet you we will hear a lot of that. That here he comes, he's salvaged his resume, his legacy to the point that he could be greater than Michael Jordan. Especially
Molly Karen, let me tell you something right now. Skip Bayless, I'm going to keep you right where the argument is. You changing it. I said no one will say, no one has said LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. What they say is, oh, he's done something Michael hasn't done in terms of number of titles or whatever. If Michael hadn't gone to play baseball, he might have went to 8 straight NBA crowns. The point is, he did it because he left the game for a couple of years or a year and a half. That's the bottom line. No one has said that but you. No one.
I'm just asking the question. That's all I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing? Just asking the question, huh?
Okay.
That's all you're doing?
Well, I'm pointing out that there are some indelible negatives on that resume that even you sometimes gloss over. He was young. Baloney, he was young then. Baloney, he was young in 2010. Baloney, he was young in 2013. I'm sorry, I'm not taking it.
Hold on. Who said he was young in 2013? Once again, where did that come from?
Where were you 10 years ago?
Hold it. Young against the Spurs in 2007. Who said he was young in 2013? Who said that?
You know what?
Who?
Don't get me started. We got to go because we're running way over.
We got to go.
Okay.
Changing it up.
I'm not changing it. I just know we're way over.
Guys.
Unbelievable.
Well, don't get me started on that first Spurs series. Don't get me started. After I heard LeBron James scored
6 straight finals appearances.
Wait a second.
6 straight finals.
Wait a second. That 2007 finals, all I heard, LeBron had no chance. He's the greatest player in the world. He didn't have a chance against my Spurs. Are you kidding me? Those were 4 close games. Where was he?
That's 9 years ago.
I don't know.
Help me. All right, let's take a break on LeBron and MJ.
I was trying to be nice.
Focus on LeBron.
You're unbelievable.
And Tim Legler's here. Tim, come make peace with these guys. The Cavs put on a show from long distance's postseason. Will they keep it up against the defending champs? Legs in the house. He'll offer his opinion and calm these two down. First take, just starting. The Warriors enter the NBA Finals with the highest postseason average for three-pointers in a game in NBA history. Cleveland averaging over 14 and Golden State averaging 12.5. We welcome to the show someone who knows a thing or two about shooting threes. Yes, he does. Tim Legler in the house. Hello again.
Hello.
How we doing?
Looking forward to this, as everybody is.
We all are, right? So can the Cavs keep this up in terms of the three-point shooting in this series against the Warriors?
I actually think if they try to match the Golden State Warriors with the three-point shooting, they're doomed. They have to play a different style.
Wow.
And when you look at what they've done in the postseason, and I know I've said this a number of times, but it's the truth. I think they actually gave the Raptors 2 games because they fell so in love with that shot. that they had a bad imbalance in their offense, because they're at their best when they utilize LeBron and Kyrie as attackers. Guys that get in the lane, force help, converge, and then you take the three-point shot when it's there. But in those two losses to the Raptors, they took 82 three-point shots, 25 free throw attempts. They basically allowed Toronto to defend them because they became predictable. You're not going to match what Golden State does from the three-point line. What you can do is dictate terms a little bit better, because you have some guys that can be physical and dominate the game in the lane, whether that's LeBron with his post-ups and his drives, or it's Kyrie Irving using ball screens, getting into the lane and forcing a convergence, and then you take the three on a kick out. I think a good number of threes for Cleveland is 25 to 30. That's a good number. When you start getting up into that 35-40 range, I think now you're playing a style of basketball that's going to doom you against a team like Golden State, who's much more comfortable taking that high volume of threes. So I think they need to be careful with that. There's a red line for them, and it's somewhere around 25 to 28 threes. Look at that number throughout the series.
Would you coach that if you were coaching them? Would you coach them out of shooting threes?
I would thoroughly emphasize, let's make sure we put pressure on them to defend us in the paint. LeBron, Kyrie especially, don't settle. Don't take the quick one up the floor if that's the first shot that's available, because they have guys that can hit that shot. But if you play that game with Golden State and there's a lot of long rebounds coming out, you're going to have a really difficult time getting back in transition and matching up with them. You don't want this to be, I'll match your three with our three type of series, because I think Cleveland has weapons offensively that can play in the paint and give you a little bit of red balance, even than Golden State can, who is very, very reliant on the three-point shot out of two guys. So let's be careful with that number. So if I'm Lou, I don't say, like, look, we're not going to take more than this. What I do say is, let's probe inside first. Let's force them to make adjustments and send extra help, and those shots are better shots, in rhythm, makeable, rather than the quick, rushed, hurried ones early in the shot clock that I think are going to lead to runouts on the part of Golden State. Now you can't catch them.
Stephen A.
I respectfully disagree with my man Legs, and he knows that's rare because I know he knows his basketball. But I respectfully disagree with him in this regard. Legs, you've got 6 different dudes shooting better than 44% from three-point range. Even Richard Jefferson is up there at 45%. Channing Frye at 57%. Iman Shumpert at 47%. Kevin Love at 44%. I'm sorry, Iman Shumpert at 47%. Kevin Love at 44%. J.R. Smith at 46%. Kyrie Irving at 45% from three-point range. You've got 6 different guys shooting better than 44%, from three-point range. To me, if you show the ability to make three-point shots, they'll have to come out and defend you. If they do that, it will give them the ability to operate quick on the inside. Whether you have LeBron on a post or Kevin Love in the post area, you'll have the ability to take advantage of somebody inside. I'm not saying that you don't go inside. I totally agree with you there. But I don't think you need to start inside out. I think you need to start outside in to see if indeed you are making those shots, forcing Golden State not to collapse, instead to come out and get you, because I think it exposes them not just onto the interior in terms of your ability to post with the LeBron or Love, but also your ability to get to the basket with some of those open lanes that them spreading out defensively are going to force them to surrender. I think that's how you can beat this team. Last year, Cleveland started inside out. They had no choice because they had no shooters. JR was off, and don't get me started with Dellavedova and the others. And so where did that get them? Yeah, it got them 2 victories in the first 3 games, but that was because of the heroics of LeBron James. Outside of that, they got exposed over the last 3 games when J.R. Smith shot 12 of 42 from the field. So I look at it from the perspective that if you have the ability to shoot those three-point shots, show it and show it early and put them on notice that it's something that they're going to need to contend with. And as a result of doing so, it will enable you to potentially do damage on the inside like you just articulated.
One of the things I will say, to be careful about those three-point numbers. They're inflated because of the Atlanta series. Atlanta made a decision in that series that they were going to trap LeBron James and Kyrie Irving all over the floor, chase them 30 feet from the basket, not rotate to the shooter, and Kevin Love and Channing Frye basically were taking shots that you take before the game with nobody guarding you during the game. No, so those numbers are a little inflated, and I think as a result, we looked at this team as, oh, this is Golden State of the East with their three-point shooting. Yeah. be careful if you play that way against the real Golden State. I think you're going to be in trouble. I think this is a team that needs to be careful. They got back to their roots in Game 5 against Toronto. In Game 3, Skip, they took 23 threes in the first half of a loss in Toronto. Game 5, they took 21 for the entire game in a 40-point win.
But then they went back to Toronto and won Game 6, and they made 17 threes, which is a lot.
I'm not saying don't take them. Look, I'm not saying you don't take threes. What I'm saying is be careful if you match Golden State. If you think you're going to match Golden State in this series from the three-point line, and that's how you're going to beat them, I'd be careful, because I think you're getting away from something that you have as an advantage over them, which is LeBron and Kyrie and their ability to play in the paint.
But I don't think it's about trying to match them. I think that ultimately what your strategy is about beating them inside. The argument that I'm making that I think is somewhat different than yours, Legs, is that you're talking about attacking them on the inside. That's how you're going to beat them, because you don't want to play their game. I get that. What I'm saying is I think showing the ability to hit the three will facilitate doing exactly what you say they're going to need to do in order to win. That's where I'm going. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything on the inside if they can't hit jump shots. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, here's the difference to me. Back to your point, I'm more with you than with Stephen A. on this. The two hottest three-point shooters for Cleveland are Channing Frye and J.R. Smith, who aren't exactly Steph and Clay, right? Because if you look at their histories, Channing Frye, I remember a big playoff series back in Phoenix against L.A. I was rooting for Phoenix. And Channing Frye had a hot hand, and he has an 0-for-6 game and a 1-for-7 game. It's possible. You know this, being a great three-point shooter yourself. It's not like he's a star in the league who just knows he's going to make them. Not that Steph and Clay aren't capable of an occasional combined 2-for-15, but Channing Frye can go just as cold as he can be hot. We know J.R. Smith can go completely cold, sometimes at the worst possible times, as Stephen A. knows, as he put out the APB for him in the finals last year. What was he, 0-for-8 in Game 4 and 4-for-14 in Game 5? Okay, I don't know that you can trust those guys to carry you home against this team, because I'm pretty sure Golden State will make a whole bunch of threes because it's just who they are. But how did LeBron, again, playing shorthanded, how did he keep them? How did he put this team in position up 2-1 with Game 4 in LeBron's house? How did he do it? He dribbled the air out of the ball, right? He would just dribble the ball up the floor. He'd dribble every clock down to just about nothing, and then hope that somebody, maybe Delly, could make a play, right? Didn't he? And he kept, and then he did it on Christmas Day. Remember that game? It was 88-83. He kept them in the game by controlling the clock himself. I love that. I think he's still capable of doing that in this series.
He overpowered them physically, and he needs to rely on that. That's really the point I was making. And actually, to back up what you're saying, I think that's really what it comes down to. Who you betting money on to make the threes, and that you say, I'm pretty certain these guys are going to have good series. I'm betting on Clay and Steph and even Harrison Barnes. I'm betting on those guys more than I would a J.R. Smith or a Frye or a Shumpert or the guys, or even a Kevin Love. Yeah. He has been wildly inconsistent in the postseason. So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to play this game, the guys that I think are more reliable to shoot at a high percentage in this series on this stage under this kind of pressure are the guys in Golden State. And that's why Cleveland needs to rely a little bit more on what they have that's unique to them, which is LeBron James overwhelming you physically by controlling the basketball, getting into the paint, forcing help. I think that is what makes you unique, more so than the three-point shooting.
Yep. And keeping that around 25-30, you said earlier, around the
I think that's a good number. I think that's a good number for them, because if they're taking 25 to 30 threes, they're probably getting 25 to 30 free throws. And that's a good number for them. When you see that imbalance, 35, 40 threes, 18, 20 free throw attempts, I think they're in trouble.
We'll be watching. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. From Timmy to Tommy, that would be Tom Brady, Skip Bayless. He hates when I call him Tommy.
Wait, you just put Timmy and Tommy in the same sentence?
I'll take it.
Wow.
I'll take it.
Tommy.
Wow.
Yeah, they're both handsome devils.
Handsome guys.
Tom Brady should be honored.
Oh, he's trying to play nice with the NFL over Deflategate. Stephen A. never playing nice. We'll get into that subject. We'll see if his opinion changes. He had a great offer to settle these cases. The league didn't want to do it because he refused to throw his trainers under the bus. Look, Tom's a stand-up guy, and he made a settlement offer to resolve this. The league chose not to take it, and that's where we are. Mr. Smith, what do you make of this?
Nothing. I don't care what DeMaurice Smith has to say on this matter. He's lucky he's involved in this situation as far as I'm concerned. Tom Brady has his own lawyers. I don't understand why DeMaurice Smith feels the need to ingratiate himself into the equation unless there's an ulterior motive, which we all know is the case. The fact of the matter is that, you know, DeMaurice Smith is trying to retroactively go about the business of accomplishing something he failed to do during collective bargaining negotiations, and that is drastically diminish, if not eradicate the power of Roger Goodell as commissioner of the National Football League. I understand that. I understand the agenda, but to hide behind Tom Brady, to sit up there acting all self-righteous as if this is really about Tom Brady when he knows good and damn well it's not, it's just a bit nauseating to me as far as I'm concerned, because I think that it's something that it's the latest example of the relationship between DeMaurice Smith and Roger Goodell, and how they are as far apart as the Pacific Ocean in terms of their personal relationship with one another, the antagonism and the cynicism that exists with both parties. And I hold DeMaurice Smith primarily responsible for that. Roger Goodell is not an innocent bystander in this equation by any stretch of the imagination. I am quite sure there are things that he could have done differently. But he is the commissioner of the National Football League. He is answerable to 32 owners. They have empowered him. Everybody knows this. And as a result, he's pretty much doing their bidding. And his primary responsibility is to protect and to uphold the integrity of the game of the National Football League. DeMaurice Smith knows this, just like Gene Upshaw, his predecessor, knew this. Did Gene Upshaw do everything right? Probably not. Was he absolutely flawless and perfect? Probably not. But there's something to be said about ingratiating yourself with the commissioner, maybe not too much, but enough where every single thing doesn't have to be a legal issue. And yet DeMaurice Smith has changed it exactly to that. Every time we turn around, there's a court issue. Every chance we get, we see DeMaurice Smith involved in some form of litigation in some capacity. And to me, it's just the latest example of that. So to sit up there and to talk to us about how Tom Brady made a proposal, but you don't want to tell us what it is, then why tell us anything? And why tell us now? It's just nonsense. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear from DeMaurice Smith. And by the way, going on these other shows, come on First Take. Let's answer some of those questions. You understand? D.C. ain't far from Bristol. What you hiding for? You know, I mean, that's the way I'm looking. I got my own national radio show. DeMaurice Smith is welcome to come on there anytime he wants. He has an open invitation. Bet you he won't take it most of the time. I promise you that. You understand? Because that's a hot seat, baby. Make no mistake about it. But it is what it is. And in the end, it's just, to me, much ado about nothing. Just the latest example of people coming to the defense of Tom Brady. And as far as I'm concerned, the more people that stand up and come to his defense, the more guilty Tom Brady appears, the more desperate he appears.
Now, hold on just a second. You've made about 17 points. I got to undo here, but I got to get back to the radio point.
I really made about 3, but go ahead. I really made about 3, but go ahead.
So are you offended that D. Smith has done Dan Patrick's radio show and he refuses to do yours or avoids doing yours?
Absolutely. Well, let me say this right now. I'm glad you brought that up. Let me tell you something. Unlike the Dan Patricks of the world and others, I shouldn't say unlike Dan Patrick, because I have a lot of respect for Dan Patrick. But I want to say this. I respect the hell out of Dan Patrick. As far as I'm concerned, ESPN is what it is today, in large part due to the greatness of a Dan Patrick. I respect my colleagues. I'm not in any way denigrating or pointing a negative finger in his direction at all. His stature has been established. I'm simply saying that you see a lot of people going to people they're comfortable with and they like, as opposed to people who they may not be that comfortable with because of the positions that we take. I hold it as a badge of honor, as you know, Skip, when people want to avoid me. That's more time for me to talk. As far as I'm concerned, guests take up time for me talking. So it doesn't bother me when they don't come. It don't phase,
well, then we should get some more
all.
guests on this show, I guess.
Oh, stop.
I'm kidding.
Well, we get enough guests on this show, and I certainly get guests on my radio show.
That's true. You do. Okay, now back to your point. Remember, what D. Smith is saying here and said on Dan Patrick and has said before on Mike and Mike, this wasn't a declaration, another declaration of war on Roger Goodell. He's talking about a potential compromise that was offered earlier, I don't know how far back, by Tom Brady. And you say, well, tell us what it was. Well, I thought in the past he'd already made it pretty clear that Tom Brady was willing to settle, but not at all willing to take any guilt, that there'd be no admission or confession of guilt here on Tom Brady's behalf, that he would be willing. I assume he would have taken a couple of games suspension if he didn't have to admit guilt, because he wanted to clear his name, his legacy, his resume, and still go forward with the football season last year or whatever it be. Get rid of this. Get himself out of court. And no, he's not going to throw the trainers, in case the ball boys, the equipment people, under the bus, because Tom Brady said from the start he's not aware of a single bit of wrongdoing on their part. So why would he throw them under the bus? He can't, because he doesn't want to admit their guilt any more than his own, because he doesn't know of their guilt. That's what he stated a dozen times before. So why is that so shocking to you? Why?
Well, first of all, it's a couple of things. Number one, my issue with DeMaurice Smith has nothing to do with Tom Brady. It's just the latest in an example of how everything turns into a legal issue. I am somebody who's been covering collective bargaining for over 20 years, and I have a problem with the fact that everything, that labor negotiations is at the helm of everything as opposed to labor relations. It's not just his job to be in court all the damn time. It's his job to ingratiate himself with the commission and the National Football League in a fashion that speaks to a relationship that's taken place. So the coffers, the financial coffers of the players is not being compromised. Tom Brady and Deflategate, from my understanding, has cost the Players Association millions. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with the issue of deflated footballs regressing to a point where it's taking millions of dollars out of the coffers of players. That's my issue. And I think that it's something that DeMaurice Smith could have worked to alleviate in a better fashion. Not saying completely or whatever, but I think he could have worked it out better if he had done a portion. I'm not saying he doesn't do his job, because he's obviously exceptional in some areas, but as it pertains to cultivating the kind of relationship where you're not costing the players you represent so much money, I think he could do a better job of that. That is my lone issue with DeMaurice Smith, that he, to me, turns everything into a legal issue because that is where he is comfortable. That is where his bread is buttered. But unfortunately, it's at the expense of a bevy of players whose names are not Tom Brady. As it pertains to Tom Brady, his position is his position. I don't believe him, because don't tell me that you didn't know anything about the footballs being deflated. Now, I don't believe he should be suspended for 4 games. I think the commissioner was excessive. I think it's much ado about nothing. But just don't act like innocent Abe, like you're Polly Purebred, like nothing about you is stained. I don't believe it.
Well, I do.
I don't believe it, and you do. I respect that. I don't believe him. How much more clear can I be? You get the football snapped to you. You hand it off to the running back. You throw it to tight ends and receivers, and you have no clue. None. I don't believe it.
Okay, but now you're saying that you want D. Smith, as the head of the Players Association, to be friendlier with Roger Goodell, to have better relations, to get closer to him, so these things don't wind up in court.
Because Tom Brady isn't the only issue, A. And B, Tom Brady's got lawyers.
I agree with that. Okay, that's fine. That's a whole other issue.
If you are DeMaurice Smith, why are you involved?
Okay.
Tom Brady has lawyers. He has the best. You just said it. He has the former Solicitor General.
He did.
You have attorneys.
Yep.
Why are you spending the players' money?
Well, I've said that from the start. Tom's got enough money. His wife has enough money. They could represent themselves here. That's
all
fine.
I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine. But you know and I know that into the distant past, there have been predecessors of D. Smith's as head of the union who have been a little too friendly with that current commissioner. So you don't want that. No player wants that.
I agree with that. And that's why I said you don't want to completely imitate or emulate the late Gene Upshaw, God rest his soul. But what you don't want to do is go in the complete opposite direction and be straight nuclear when you're still representing the players and you know good and well. Listen, if the players are so lethal, if the players are so potent and so powerful, why did DeMaurice Smith, look, have you ever really skipped, and I'm asking rhetorically and facetiously because I know that you have because of how thorough you are. But I ask you rhetorically, have you seen the collective bargaining agreement? Are you trying to tell me that the players didn't get taken to the woodshed? Have you seen this collective bargaining agreement? Have you seen what the owners won in the collective bargaining negotiations? My response to that is this. Where was DeMaurice Smith then? You're trying to retroactively go about the business of correcting things you weren't able to pull off during collective bargaining negotiations. No doubt, I'm not questioning the man's competence because you got 32 owners against 1,600 plus players, and his job is exponentially harder. But the fact is, you didn't pull it off. And it's clear what you're trying to do. You're turning everything into a legal issue because what you want to do is retroactively go about the business of capturing stuff that you weren't able to pull off during negotiations. That's your damn problem.
Okay,
you
but
didn't
wait a second. In the end, in the 11th hour of those last negotiations, at some point, D. Smith has to put it to a vote of his player reps, 32 of them. And if my memory serves, only one voted no that fateful night that they accepted it, Ryan Clark.
That's
exactly.
Right.
So what can D. Smith do at that point?
But that's
he has
my
to say,
point.
okay.
But Skip, that's my point. Again, I am not questioning his competence. Listen, I'm a black man, Skip. This man is a black man heading to the Players Association. I'm proud of DeMaurice Smith and what he has accomplished as an individual with his life. I'm not trying to disrespect this man. I am simply making the point that because you represent so many players, there's but so much power that you have. And because you're at their mercy and all their interests are not the same. So if you know this, then it's incumbent upon you even more so to cultivate some kind of relationship with the commissioner where everything isn't a legal issue, so you're not spending the players' money on Deflategate. My God, it's over 16 months. I mean, millions of dollars you're costing the play. I am up here on national TV going off about this not because of the competence of DeMaurice Smith, which is not to be questioned, not because of his intent. I understand that the man is an honorable man. I'm not trying to disrespect him. I am saying you are compromising, in my opinion, the interest of the players by going all out with Tom Brady on this when Tom Brady already has his lawyers and already has his money. And there's a whole bunch of dudes that can't afford the kind of defense that Tom Brady can afford.
Okay, just remember.
That's my problem.
Just remember, this isn't just about that one dude, that superstar quarterback.
I'm saying.
Remember, it's a much bigger issue. If somehow Roger Goodell gets defeated at the highest level, at the Supreme Court level, which I think is highly possible, Pandora's box flings open. It would be a momentous, life-changing decision and victory for the Players Association. Even the rank and file, players would win hugely.
Skip, you did this where I'm going right now. You did this. I don't want, because we all know you ain't going away. We all know you're going to be on TV, you're going to be on radio, you're going to be doing your thing. When a player sits up there because he can't stay off the weed, or he gets involved in some domestic violence incident, or a DUI, and all of this other stuff, I don't want to hear nobody complaining about what Roger Goodell didn't do. Domestic violence, I don't want to hear anybody complaining about Roger. Because remember, if you open Pandora's box and you compromise his power, you've therefore compromise his ability to alleviate the problem because you have challenged his authority. So the same people that's sitting up here thinking about Tom Brady, but tacitly go about the business of expressing how it's bigger than Tom Brady, there's bigger issues, and Roger Goodell's power needs to be compromised. Remember what you said. Because I don't want to hear anything when other dudes get in trouble and Roger Goodell can't do anything about it because the power has been stripped. I don't want to hear it.
Well, obviously, I'm not saying the Supreme Court would throw out every rule in the National Football League so every player could smoke dope to his life's content. You know, like, come on now.
But wait a minute. But what you are saying is that if Tom Brady, if Roger Goodell loses this case because of what DeMaurice Smith is doing, and therefore Roger Goodell's power is limited and compromised, you have now opened Pandora's box to anything being adjudicated or whatever the case may be, and you now have a problem on your hands because you don't have order.
Okay,
and that's the issue.
Right now, he is, to use the cliche, judge, jury, executioner. He has uncontrolled power to rule as his sole arbitrator. He is the arbitrator. And you know what? In the 11th hour of that last collective bargaining agreement, they gave up this power to him, and they should not have. They could win it back at the Supreme Court level. They could do what they should have done before.
The bottom line is this whole stuff about Roger Goodell's power is a crock. It's nonsense. Here's where the power lies in the 32 owners who employ him and have given him in excess of $35 million a year over the last several years. That's where the power lies. They just use the commissioner to hide behind so they're not being talked about and they're not held accountable. But we all know where the power lies. The golden rule is those with the gold makes the rules. And the owners are the ones with the gold because they don't cash checks, they cut them. And in the reality, that's what they do both. They cash their own, plus they cut them. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that's their situation. So Roger Goodell is being, as far as I'm concerned, everybody pointing at him where we should be looking at the 32 owners, and in the end, that's where DeMaurice Smith is going. Fair enough, but when you get what you want, assuming you pull it off and you do get what you want, because I'm not so sure you will, remember Pandora's box that you open, because I'm not going to be the one complaining about what the players get away with. Y'all are.
All right, we got to get to break now. So far, $23 million have been spent on this case in legal fees, an estimated amount there.
It's ridiculous.
You know who else is a must-follow on Twitter besides these two now? Jim Harbaugh. He's taking shots at Nick Saban on Twitter. We will tell you why. Two of the best coaches in college football are not getting along. That is next. Another hour of First Take coming up. Saban fired up. Well, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh fired back at Saban's comments about satellite camps with this tweet. Amazing to me. Alabama broke NCAA rules, and now their head coach is lecturing us on the possibility of rules being broken at camps. Truly amazing. Skip Bayless, whose side are you on here, Harbaugh or Saban?
Stephen A. and Molly, I'm definitely on Jim Harbaugh's side here. And I must tell you, Stephen A., I'm getting a great kick out of how Jim Harbaugh continues to get under the skin of the great Nick Saban, how he appears to be, dare I say, making Nick Saban a little nervous. And I'm loving it that a Big Ten coach has the audacity, as you would say, the unmitigated gall to stand up to an all-powerful SEC coach. Jim Harbaugh is coming. Nick Saban knows he is coming. I, for one, would not bet against Jim Harbaugh winning a national championship in the next couple or 3 years. I wouldn't bet against it. Now, I get Coach Saban's one big problem here. This is yet another avenue that could pave the way for a disreputable third party, an AAU-style rogue, as they call them, street agent, to start up a camp so that quote-unquote street agent could get his hooks into a young high school player who had potential greatness about him. It's the whole AAU syndrome that has plagued college basketball. So Coach Saban is saying, well, why would we open that potential Pandora's box, as we just talked about? But in this case, a school can also start up its own satellite camp, the way Jim Harbaugh is starting up several satellite camps, and all of a sudden it's a legal way for a head coach, if he wants to spend the time and the effort to get to know a good player early on, to get close to him, to ingratiate himself with that player so that player may be a little more inclined to go to Michigan instead of go to Alabama. The problem here for Coach Saban is, and a lot of other very successful head coaches, these camps are springing up in a month in which a lot of those coaches are gone fishing. This is their vacation time. I'm sure Coach Saban would love to be on vacation, fishing, or playing golf somewhere. But no, Coach Harbaugh is taking no vacations because he is trying to build something at Michigan, and now he has a legal way through a satellite camp to build it more quickly, to make more inroads against an Alabama or any big SEC power. I got to tell you, I love it.
Well, I don't mind it. I'm not on anybody's side here, and I'll openly confess to you, Skip, I kind of need your help on this matter, because when you talk about the satellite camps, my recollection of it is that satellite camps allows a football coach to travel long distance to work as a guest, not a host, but a guest. Okay?
But you can run the camp.
At camps hosted by other institutions. You can go and run the camp as a guest a particular day or whatever the case may be. You're not allowed to host it, right?
You can be an instructor. You can teach drills and
absolutely.
And you know, any sort of, you don't do strategy.
That's my understanding of it.
Technique,
That's my understanding of it. But here's where the trick comes in, okay? Usually, as it pertains to the SEC and the ACC, at least as of last year, if you were outside a 50-mile radius, you were prohibited from participating in it in certain conferences, like the ACC or the SEC.
Correct.
But that's not the case in the Big Ten.
No. Well, now it's not. Yeah, now nationally, the NCAA first outlawed the camps and now is saying recently it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is originally Jim Harbaugh's zest to do this almost had an unfair advantage, because if you can use such a phrase when it comes to the SEC, you know, he almost had an unfair advantage because his conference found it permissible, whereas the SEC did not. So Jim Harbaugh could come to a camp. Let's say they talked about some high-powered high school program in Prattville, you know, Alabama or something like that, right?
Yeah.
He could go there, but Auburn and Alabama couldn't, because it was 70 and 90 miles respectively away from that.
Right.
So that's an unfair advantage. But as long as the advantage is the same, then I have no issue with it. And then it does come across as Nick Saban crying sour grapes. Because as long as the rules are applicable evenly to everyone else, he should have no complaint. But if for some reason it's not, or for some reason this is yet another thing where you'd have to worry about violations coming down upon you by the NCAA because of their interpretation of what exactly is transpiring, then Nick Saban is making sense. Because I didn't hear him complaining about Jim Harbaugh. I heard him complaining about the NCAA. He was talking about how there needs to be an overseer, so I don't have to worry about, if I'm communicating with somebody running one of these camps, that I don't then have to worry about the NCAA coming down the pike and accusing me of engaging in some kind of violation.
Correct.
To me, that's not I don't have a problem with him complaining about that. And to me, it's kind of lowball for Jim Harbaugh to get on Nick Saban about that, if Nick Saban is complaining about the NCAA, because I don't hear him complaining about the satellite camp as it pertains to Jim Harbaugh. I hear him complaining about the satellite camp as it pertains to some action that the NCAA can, you know, subsequently exact against a particular coach or a particular program. And considering how they nitpick, meaning the NCAA, I don't blame that for being a concern for any college football coach.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but in the big picture here, remember, Harbaugh fired back on Twitter by poking the bear, or at least the new Bear Bryant at Alabama, Nick Saban, because he referred to, that's right, he referred to an assistant that Nick had to let go, who lost his job because of a recruiting violation. So he's saying, what a hypocrite you are, because under your own nose, you had an assistant who messed up. So, again, that's some unmitigated gall on Jim Harbaugh's part.
It is unmitigated gall on the part of Jim Harbaugh. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh. But I would respectfully disagree with him here, and I think he's being insensitive to the actual argument that is being made. He's too busy looking at the individual and his program as opposed to looking at the argument that Nick Saban was making. Nick Saban was making an argument against the NCAA, saying that you have yet another excuse to bring a heavy hand down upon a program when the violation is relatively vague based on what you're allowing to transpire with these satellite camps. That's potentially
no, you're
a
right.
legitimate argument.
No, it is, and that's what I said to start off with. But the point is, remember Jim Harbaugh at Stanford going after Pete Carroll at USC? Remember when he'd just go right after him publicly? Yep. And they clashed on the field after the game? Carroll, I can't remember what Carroll's line was.
Yeah.
You know, what's your problem, I think it was. Well,
right.
So Jim Harbaugh breaks all the coaching rules.
Oh,
you know,
Twitter.
like,
that's
like
fine.
He just, that's just
and we love him for it. And by the way, we love him for it. We love him for it. And I am a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh. But let's be clear. There's no national championship on his resume.
Nope.
Nor is there a Super Bowl title on his resume.
No.
So,
almost.
yeah, he might be coming.
Yeah.
But nothing takes away from the multitude of national championships
I agree with that.
Nick Saban has already won.
Yep. Nope, you're right.
So pump the brakes just a little bit.
Well-oiled machine there at Bama. According to ESPN Insider, Bama has the second-ranked freshman class coming in, and Michigan the sixth, so not too shabby on either end. Squad goals, Chef Curry or King James? Which superstar squad should be more confident heading into the rematch Thursday night? That's the debate next. The rematch of last year's NBA Finals. Of course, the Warriors had a tough road getting there, 7-game series. The Cavs, meanwhile, ran through the East with ease. But different story here with the Cavs being at full strength. So, Stephen A., who should be more confident going into this game now or the series?
Me personally, I think it should be the Cleveland Cavaliers. I feel that way because of a couple of reasons. Number one, they're fully loaded this year. They were not last year. Number two, they remember what LeBron did last year without them. Now they have him back, and he's looked at times better this year than he even did last year. And number three, Golden State looks formidable. They look more vulnerable than they did last year. Their defense is not what it used to be. And speaking to Rick Barry the other day, you know, Skip's friend, a Hall of Famer, somebody that I recognize as one of the great basketball minds out there, who watches Golden State religiously, literally talks all the time about how they don't look the same and how they need to play better. There's no doubt that Golden State should be the favorite. It's because you believe that they won't continue to play the way that they struggled in the last series and at times in the previous series in the postseason. You know that if they bring their A game, they could beat anybody, and they should beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. But if you're Cleveland, seeing the vulnerability that they've displayed, particularly on the defensive end of the floor, combined with the fact that even though Steph Curry has poured it on at times, consistently from quarter to quarter, game to game, he hasn't been the Steph Curry we saw during the regular season. When you combine all of those things with what you're seeing from Cleveland, the multitude of three-point shooters, the flexibility in their lineup, being able to go big with the Tristan Thompsons of the world, being able to go small and having Kevin Love and Channing Frye out on the court with a LeBron James, which, by the way, isn't that small, having an offensive firepower of a lineup with J.R. Smith and Kyrie Irving to go along with Frye, Love, and LeBron, the flexibility that you're able to put out there offensively as well as defensively. I definitely think that Cleveland has every reason to be confident, even more so than they obviously did during the season, and particularly last year without having Love and Kyrie.
We don't confer before these shows, and I want you to know that I wrote this down right after our morning meeting when I was just going over some thoughts in my head. I am completely with you. I'm surprised by your answer. I thought you would say Warriors. Not that I wanted to argue with you, but right away, I thought the Cavs should be more confident for every reason you just made, and then some. The Cavs are healthy. They are rested. They had a very easy path to the finals. And meanwhile, we all know, I don't know exactly to what degree, but Steph's got an issue with his knee. And Golden State has an issue with its battered psyche. That was hard what they just did. They were down 3-1, and they had to win 3 straight games against that bunch, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who often look like the dominant team in that series. That takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally as you run up now to Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I think it's going to be hard for Golden State to get back up to that highest level that they played Game 7 at for the Game 1. In fact, I think Game 1 is very stealable for LeBron and company. And I'm with you. LeBron, I've never seen him play better all-around overall basketball than he's been playing of late. And that team clicked. It gelled. It came together right on schedule. And as Tyronn Lue was saying yesterday, not until the last 3 weeks of the regular season did Kyrie's knee get to 100% healthy. Kyrie talked about it yesterday. He can now get out of bed and put both feet on the floor with 1,000% confidence in that surgically repaired knee that some mornings earlier in the season was pretty stiff when he got up. It's not stiff anymore. They're right. They're ready. And because of that, because they looked overmatched at times against the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm not sure their confidence is at the highest level right now, except for that little number 30s confidence. That's the guy. But it took Klay Thompson making a record number of threes to save their season. And then it took Steph, vintage greatness, almost Jordan-esque, if I may, greatness, to save their season. Well, I don't know if that bodes well for great confidence going forward.
I don't know either, to be quite honest with you, but I definitely think that Cleveland has more of a reason to be confident right now. Where that gets them remains to be seen. But I definitely think that they have reason to be more confident now.
All right, we'll find out tomorrow. We step aside from the NBA Finals for a moment. So Rex Ryan inherited a tremendous Bills defense, and they took a step back with Rex at the helm. How much pressure is on the Bills this season? That is the discussion when we... There's been a lot of talk out of Buffalo, and the Ryans aren't holding any punches heading into 2016. So speaking to Monday Morning Quarterback, Rex Ryan calling out former Bill Mario Williams for not being the only team player while with the Bills. So he said, yeah, but he's making $17 million. Guess what? It wasn't going to happen. Now look with some of the comments. Do I really wish him well? Not really. So, Skip, lots of talk from the team who's had the longest playoff drought in the NFL for 16 years. Yep. How much pressure is on the Bills?
Stephen A., I say going into next year, huge pressure on both Rex and now Rob Ryan as his sort of associate coach in charge of defense. I'm going to say hot seat pressure because these guys, these twin brothers, they become the dynamic duo of quotes. They're both quote machines. We love that in this business. But I think they've both talked a better game of late than they have coached. And I look at what Rob did or didn't do in New Orleans. Obviously, he had come from Dallas, where that last year in Dallas, they ranked 24th in points allowed and had some absolute debacles. Then he goes to New Orleans and had the one big year where they ranked 4th. And then the next 2 years, 31st and 31st. Not great. Now, Rob's excuse to Monday Morning Quarterback was that the Seattle scheme was forced on him from above. I don't know if he meant from the GM or the head coach or whatever, but that he was forced to change the scheme that had worked his first year in New Orleans. I don't know about that, but that's his story, sticking to it. And then we look at what Rex has done or hasn't done since his AFC Championship game visits with the Jets. Starting in 2011, he went 8-8, 6-10, 8-8, 4-12. Then his first year, last year in Buffalo, 8-8. It's not very good. Get you fired. Did get him fired with the Jets finally. And I would say that he's starting to be on the hot seat in Buffalo because they do have talent on that team. And now we'll see if that defense can start playing Ryan-esque defense. Can it start living up to its head coach and now its defensive coordinator, the Ryan twins? I think they're both on the hot seat going forward.
Well, let's be more accurate with it. They should be on the hot seat. With the money that the Buffalo Bills invested in Rex Ryan, we don't know if it's officially going to be the case, but they should be on the hot seat. It's for a couple of reasons. First of all, let me say this about Rob Ryan. My problem with Rob Ryan, I believe that the man is hard-headed. First of all, when you look like a straight vagrant off the street half the time because you can't even get a damn haircut, you would have had a head coaching job if you looked the part. I know that's crazy to say, but it's entirely possible.
Yep.
You have to look the part. Presentation matters.
I don't think it's crazy either.
And if presentation matters with the players, you know good and well it needs to matter with the coach. So the fact that he's never addressed that, and he's so hard-headed when it comes to that, one could easily surmise that he was probably hard-headed when it came to listening to his boss, Sean Payton. He might have done so, but done so begrudgingly, which may have something to do with the fact that he had the 31st ranked defense the last 2 years, and he got booted out of New Orleans. So let's be clear about that. By the way, I didn't hear anybody willing to knock down his door before his brother came to save the day. Nepotism so live and well. Isn't it a beautiful thing, Skip Bayless? Nevertheless, let's get to this Buffalo Bills situation. I'm going to tell you the biggest reason why Rex Ryan needs to be on the hot seat. It's because of your offense. Your offense is led. You now have a quarterback. One would argue he didn't have that in all his years in New York, first with Mark Sanchez, then Geno Smith. Okay? Secondly, you have Tyrod Taylor, because we know this. This man, not only phenomenal running the football as a quarterback, so he's a dual threat, but only threw 9 interceptions. And as a team, they only turned over the ball 19 times. Those are both franchise records in terms of, of level production. You don't usually expect that from a Rex Ryan offense. But that's what they gave you in Buffalo. And since defense is supposed to be your signature, why the hell are you missing the playoffs if your offense showed up and produced? That's a problem, because now we're looking at this defense. We prided ourselves on looking at Rex Ryan as being somebody who adapted to the talent as he had, as opposed to forcing them to adapt to his 3-4 scheme. Now, I'm no big fan of Mario Williams. I think he spent half his career stealing money. Even though I think he could play, I question his level of dedication. But nevertheless, 2 years prior to Rex Ryan arriving, they registered 111 sacks, including 54 the year before he arrived. Last year, they went from 54 sacks to Rex Ryan's first year when they went to 21. 54 to 21. You had 3 Pro Bowlers on your defensive line. Last year, you had 0. And so when I look at it from that perspective, to me, that's about Rex Ryan. Whatever issues exist clearly reside on the defensive side of the ball. That's supposed to be where your bread and butter is made. If you can't fix this defense, why are you a head coach? Because Rex Ryan has never been confused as being an offensive genius. No. That's not who he is. It's about defense. That's why he should be on the hot seat, because this defense is the problem, and that's supposed to be his strength.
And by the way, that Brady guy still plays quarterback in New England, last time I checked.
Makes it pretty tough.
Yeah, it does.
Bills haven't won the AFC East since 1995. A lot has to do with that guy, even though he came later. Sleeper watch. So Team Delhi took the world by storm during last year's finals, but who's the sleeper that will shine in 2016? Find out who the fellas are eyeing when we come back.
I mean, you can throw Tristan Thompson into the equation, because you've got to keep Golden State from getting second chance opportunities, and you yourself may need them if you're Cleveland, because you're not as gifted of a shooting team as Golden State. But Kevin Love is the X factor. I have no doubt in my mind that LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, yes, Kyrie Irving, is going to show up. Kyrie Irving's a bad boy. And this dude is not going to sit back and watch Steph Curry put on a show and have absolutely no answer whatsoever. They score differently, but Kyrie Irving has the potential to be every bit as lethal of a scorer as Steph Curry. He will show up. He will let everybody know, this ain't Matthew Dellavedova starting at the point guard spot. This is me, okay? So I have no doubt that Kyrie Irving is going to show up, especially with those holes that Golden State has in its defense. And LeBron James, they're going to show up. The X factor is going to be Kevin Love. Kevin Love is talented. He's big time. But Draymond Green has the potential to get inside his head. Kevin Love has to show up. He's pivotal in this series.
My X factor, I'm going to stick with the underdog Cavs here, but I think they could win without big games from Kevin Love. My X factor is your man J.R. Smith, that you couldn't find in last year's finals when he had that 0 for 8 in Game 4, that 4 for 14 in Game 5. Stephen A., he can get as hot on occasion as Klay Thompson can get hot. And if he does, he can tilt this series in the Cavs' favor. He can offset Klay's hotness with his own. And by the way, if JR is going to play 30, 35 minutes a game, he is going to have to defend Klay Thompson. Is he capable of defending? I think he's capable. Does he want it badly enough? I never know about JR. Looks like he's matured this year, but he's going to have to show up.
All right, Kevin Love and J.R. Smith, we shall be watching. Could Aaron Rodgers be the next Steven Spielberg? That is the question when we return.
Spielberg.
Yes, don't miss the bad man's plans for life after